Monster Ecology, Ogres Within the Ring of Fire. Make sure to pick your copies of Within the Ring of Fire. Saga book, 77 Thrones, a Theological Codex, up now on DriveThruRPG in physical form or on PDF, or let your main man know and get a special package bundle on PDFs and other exclusive content like raw immersive games to learn all you can about Within the Ring of Fire, the first game that's interactive on YouTube from the creator to you to allow you a full experience, the full understanding of what my mind is thinking when I put the things together, and bringing in other individuals that were part of the process and having them speak as well so we could give you a full idea and you can interact back with us and you can bring a full understanding and you can influence the direction of future products. That's right. It's exciting. Get on board and experience immersion like nothing you have before. Now, let me start off with a quote from chapter 2 of Saga book. My strength and rage broke the shackles around my body. It was the Phrygians who broke the shackles that held my mind. Carnarium, ogre ex-slave, as well portrayed in the initial playtest on this channel, 1 to 7, by Onion Kid 99, and we all loved that character. Now, ogres, knock anything you think about, say a D&D ogre out of your mind. My inspiration points for ogres have absolutely nothing to do with that, although I do love the name ogre. And I found the use of bringing certain names that have a degree of fantasy trope to them into the game and then changing them. You understand? You have the name and then you change the concept around. So you give touchstones, you give focal points for people. So it's not like 90 different names you never heard of. You know, things like made up. You're like, I'm so confused. It's too much. Push that aside. A lot of people have that reaction when they enter a fantasy world, and there's just so much different, like too much different getting out. So you want to give some people some groundings. And there is, of course, a degree of grounding. Ogres are 8 foot tall, weighing in at over 400 pounds. But ogres they have a beet red skin, and they're nearly hairless. They just have like thin eyebrows and eyelashes, and that's it for hair. There's no hair on their heads. There's no hair on their bodies. They have small ears. They're a kind of fairy. Okay? The fairies, when they bring a fire, are not reminiscent of Disney movies. This is fairies made by your main man. Now, when the Dream Liege opiate created the Bati Shi, the living soul that was to be the making of fairies. Fairies are created by gods descended from opiate, and that's the collective of the order. Fairies are an order, and the species of fairies, such as Freyin or Mihangi, such as Satyr or Ogre, all come off of that. They are the children of the gods that are descended from opiate. Now, the ogres, when the body she is given over to a god, the god is ordered by the Dream Liege to invest two things in it: a natural aspect of the world and an emotion. And ogres are the mountain, the yawning cavern mouth, and they are rage. And imagine that being a thing with rage woven into them. Imagine the worst sort of example in your mind of a steroided out freak, you know, a big bad booty daddy, a big papa pump, if you will, a freak zella if you won't. Just take that and ratchet it up. You know, go beyond the ultimate warrior and experience utter rage, just consuming. Now, ogres are not stupid. They don't have any degree of a penalty to intelligence, though they are less enlightened than others. They have less presence than others. They are generally not going to be able to articulate and put their points across that well. But they are large. They are ripped. They have huge skeletons. These are very dense bones. These are strong, powerful people. They will break you. Ogres enjoy wearing very little clothing, even if it's detrimental, even like if they're half freezing. And we saw Trevor really bring that to life with his performance of Karn. So the ogre wants you to see his tremendous physique. Imagine in real life if you look up at a guy that's 400 or 500 pounds of solid muscle and 8 foot or over 8 feet in height. Imagine that. Yeah, I mean that's like practically a foot taller than Andre the Giant, and muscular, not like a big fat dude, like a muscular, like gonna rip you to pieces kind of guy. You know, black fingernails, a face like a mailbox, beet red skin, and a desire to intimidate you. Bonuses to intimidating you. You damn right there are bonuses there for that. How are you going to, you know, I normally go, oh, that's just straight. You're just ogre. No, no, no. You're like, oh, and you guys eat people too, don't you? Oh, yes. Yes, we do. Because ogres are quick to get their cannibalism on. They'll eat each other if they absolutely have to, and they will definitely eat you. That's not going to be a problem for ogres. Ogres are, of course, strict carnivores. And they are very interesting in the game. Sort of an underdog. They're not quite able to make it. Their lack of social skills, social poise, their lack of connection to the world, they don't quite see how things line up as well as more astute species do. And these are downfalls to the ogres. However, they're very strong and they're very tough. This makes them great at things like being a porter. Now, porter is a very needed profession. How do you get merchandise around in a world like that? Through boats. Who do you have out there carrying that merchandise around after it comes off boats? Ogres. Of course, it's ogres. You think a person is going to go out there when an ogre is like a bipedal livestock? These things are enormous, so you're going to find them in a lot of areas like that. And they do live in towns, they do live in cities, if in a lot of places. Now, places aren't as universally represented of species as cosmopolitan as some fantasy games. So there will be places if you saw an ogre, oh, what's that? Or oh, but typically an ogre is the common man, baby. That's sort of the role an ogre falls into. So there's a tremendous amount as the game world came together, as this was built, this is built, this is built, this is built, things kept morphing and changing and a bit more, 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 a bit more. And we really see a huge amount of sympathy comes on the ogres. Ogres lose wars. When they go to war with someone, they lose. They work horribly as a unit. A bunch of savage barbarians running in every direction, despite what most games will tell you, uh, they're losing. They have no real strong tactics. So they come against a force like the Vaigish, the Children of Steel, the masters of military tactics. They get enslaved. They get massacred and enslaved. That's what happens to ogres when they fight forces like that. Ogres make wonderful slaves because they are not. And in this world, there's a lot of slavery. There's a lot of dark things. This is dark fantasy. This isn't appropriate for 10-year-olds. I will tell you that right now. This is a game for adults. This is a mature game that deals with topics well beyond going in and slaughtering dungeons for gold coins. The ogre loses. We see that over and over again, and that really builds up a lot of sympathy. That we see a lot of players like that. They like to have an underdog, and who better to be an underdog than an 8-foot wall of muscle? You understand, because it gives you a kind of a cool difference there. We have seen, in fact, even in the playtest, you can see slavery put upon carnarium, and that's very common for ogres. They make good slaves. They can work hard. Some species are, they don't make good slaves for that reason. Some species don't make good slaves because they're not, strong or tough. And ogres are strong and tough, and their willpower not the best, so they can be broken into submission. Still, when an ogre grabs a hold of you, you can be broken too. You're damn right you can be broken as they rip bone apart, tear flesh, and destroy muscles for all time. The ogres are definitely nothing to be put down. You understand? You do that, and you turn your back and you underestimate them. You get choked out with a chain, and you you get put up in the torture rack, and maybe even powerbombed or choke slammed, and that's all encouraged and applauded and supported by these rules. I will tell you that right now. There is going to be damage to be done. Uh, Ogres have a very weird relationship with the Freen, which I don't think I've done a Monster Ecology on yet, and I will. Ogres are, of course, they're right out of Saga book. They're one of the base playable species in the game. And from figuring out how all the species work together, ogres are absolutely the easiest of all the species in the entire game to work into almost any saga. Because they have a lot of relationships that span around. They have a relationship with the Freen. They have a different relationship with the Kalfars. They have a different relationship with the Ferrum. They have a different relationship with the Mihangi. They don't like humans. Not at all. But then again, most of the species that know humans don't like humans because After all, you well know what we're like. And imagine how ruthless we would be if we didn't have anything when we showed up and we had to get some stuff. Watch Monster Ecology Humans. Get your mind put ablaze with that one. Humans, a little bit more real in this one. And you look at them, you go, oh, we did when we did a playtest. This was not on camera, but we did a playtest with humans. The players at one point in the game, you know, we're at an intermission. I think I was getting a drink or something. I come back and they look at each other, and they look at me. They go, you know, we're the bad guys in this game, aren't we? And I went, yeah, well, a lot of people are the bad guys in this game, but that's a more realistic society, you know, where there's bad, but there's good. There's real, you know. That's what I always shot for, as opposed to stock. And we see the ogres. They have this rage that burns inside them at all times. With the Freyne, when an ogre is actually close enough to a Freyne, 50 feet away, they it's almost like a drug. You know, it just starts relaxing them, calming them, getting their mind focused, getting their meditative abilities right, getting them mentally able to deal with life, getting that fury knocked off. So that's one of the great divides with ogres. You have two distinctly different philosophical camps. And remember, ogres aren't dumb. These aren't D&D, you don't smell bad kind of ogres. These are just as smart as anyone else. So they have a rich tradition of philosophy, you know, the philosophy of rage, the philosophy of what it is to be an ogre. When you have that tremendous fury with a mind just as agile and capable as a human's, it can really create an interesting position. So the ogre becomes more docile, he becomes calmer. He begins to experience tranquility and peace in the presence of Freya. They actually lower his passion of hate, the wrath within him, the rage within him, and that slowly allows him to experience a different life, a more of a normal life, a leveling off. And there's some ogres that go, that is very much against, that is the antithesis of being an ogre. We must slaughter the Frey and we must eat them all. And other ogres just go, wow, they have liberated my mind. As Karn has said here, it was the Frey who liberated the chains of his mind. And that's so it creates a very interesting idea on the way species would pursue relationships with each other. And we actually see ogres being the only other species that live in Rottland. And if you don't have the game, that might not mean anything to you. But Rottland is the country of the Frey, the land of light, and it is right here. Yeah, so it's right there, and it has the several different duchies in it. So Rottland is a place that the Frey live. And I'm not going to give you the whole history because that'd take quite a while, but ogres have come to live there and build relationships with Frey and take Frey husbands or wives. And again, these ogres they're not ugly. They are normal looking. So try to divorce your ideas of, you know, snarling half-wits and so forth. And they are really, they produce an interesting, effective underdog who is been put upon, who occupy second, third, fourth class citizenships in cities, who are looked at with some bit of fear for their physical prowess, but often underestimated for their mental abilities, and generally discounted as closer to animals than perhaps they should be. It provides an interesting position. I've seen a lot of players once they look at a character like that, they really gravitate towards them. They like to be, you know, oppressed. They like to have the underdog mentality, and to see how they could come up with it, how they can change things, how they can work upon that society. Because those are the sort of issues and ideas you want to tackle in a game like this, where you're allowed to bring that background to flourish. We're allowed to take and experience the cities and the towns and the culture and the society and that dynamic, and to change things as you can. So that is your ogre. Rage bound to flesh. It's burning red and tremendous muscularity right out of the book. A species so far, and I can't wait to, you know, I'm making this before the books have been released, but I can't wait to have this out there and really get huge feedback. The feedback I've received so far on the ogres has been universally positive. A lot of people have really enjoyed them, and it's a way to take that species and really do something different with them, yet at the same having a lot of the very quintessential points, the size, the strength, the aggression, the ferocity, but having something that can coexist, that can be part of a group that, but at the same time, people will definitely keep their eye on them because why? Because you're 8 foot tall and you will eat them.